Now let's move to our main cover story on the Google Nexus 5. This Google Nexus as a business model is a very, very different one. They don't play by any of the rules that the rest of the companies seem to play by. For instance, what's the current rule? If you release a flagship phone, it should be around 40,000 plus, nearer to 50. Then you sub-discount it, you have all these different ways of doing it, and then there's a street price that will be a little bit lower. What is this price? The Nexus 5 is Google and LG's flagship phone. What's the price? Starts off at about 28,000 rupees. The other big deal, when you come out with the flagship phone, you go to town with advertising it, big hype, big buzz. Here, very few people even know this phone exists. So what's this business model? What's this phone all about? And should you be buying it? Well, you're about to find out.
It's faster, it's slimmer and tastier. It's the new Nexus and it is all set to blow the competition to bits with its latest re-engineered features and an aggressive price tag. The Nexus 5 is built by LG, but it's a Google phone through and through. The design is minimalistic, neat and very sleek. In fact, this is the first ever Nexus that seems to have been designed keeping form, factor and aesthetics in mind, as it does exude a certain premium look. It is 8.6 millimeters thick and weighs 130 grams. It's definitely not the thinnest or the lightest phone in the market, but it clocks in quite close. The economics make sure that the phone is easy to hold and use. Sporting the biggest screen in any Nexus phone, this 4.95-incher has a Corning Gorilla Glass 3 display and more importantly a full HD 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution display with 445 ppi. It is the first to run the latest Android 4.4 operating system, also called the KitKat. The chocolate version has quite a few add-ons like a new dialer that automatically suggests people most likely to be called, send and receive text messages directly from Hangouts, and Hangouts for Android now supports location sharing, and of course the big Siri killer, OK Google Voice Assistant.
OK Google.
Just say OK Google and almost any search term can be said out aloud and you will get a response. A lot of features like dialing and messaging can also be done from here. It worked very well with the Cellguru team Accents and that is quite a big deal. Underneath this device's hood is a 2.26 GHz Snapdragon 800 processor which comes along with a 2 GB of RAM, making it awesomely fast and quick. The LG Nexus 5 comes with two cameras, an 8 megapixel at the back and 1.3 megapixel in the front. New to the Nexus's 8 megapixel camera is optical image stabilization. The back camera sports a new user interface. The picture quality is decent but not at par with the competition. The phone packs a 2300 mAh of battery, which is not much for a full HD display device. It comes in two models, one with 8 GB internal memory and the other with 16 GB. There is no micro SD for expansion. It is priced at 28,999 rupees. Cellguru verdict, the Nexus 5 is easily the most attractive phone in its class and above. This phone breaks every rule of phone marketing and pricing and will make sure it sends the competition scurrying back to the drawing board.
Android rules all, but is the Nexus 5 the king of all Androids? Time for a true shootout between the Nexus 5 and the best-selling other Android phones available in the market today. The Nexus 5 in the LG G2 runs on a 2.26 GHz quad-core processor and comes along with 2 GB of RAM. The Samsung Galaxy S4 boasts for an octa-core processor. Sony Xperia Z1 comes with a 2.2 GHz quad-core and the HTC One with a 1.7 GHz quad-core, both with 2 GB of RAM too. But in real-life performance, almost all of them are at par. Both LG G2 and Xperia Z1 come loaded with 3000 mAh of battery, while the Galaxy 4 clocks in at 2600 mAh of battery. The Nexus 5 and the HTC One bring up the rear in battery power at 2300 mAh. Battery life on these two take quite a hit. Material used for the outer body, the shell, the fit and finish, the sleekness and the ergonomics are excellent on the HTC One and Sony Xperia Z1. The Galaxy S4 suffers the most here as it's still very plasticky. The LG G2 has the same problem but is still better looking, and the Nexus 5 comes out a little bit better with cleaner lines. LG G2 and Galaxy S4 sport a 13 megapixel camera and over 2 megapixel front camera with almost all the modes. However, the HTC One with ultra pixel technology and the Z1 with 20.7 megapixels exceeds the picture quality. The Nexus 5 has an 8 megapixel camera which is mid-length but rescued somewhat with optical image stabilization. LG G2, Nexus 5 and the HTC One come in 16GB and 32GB versions but give a miss to micro SD card slot. The Z1 and the S4 come with micro SD card slot and that makes a huge difference. All these devices make for great Android smartphones and the Nexus seems to hold its head high with all the big guys. And once you throw in a price comparison, the Nexus 5 turns out to be a compelling buy.
Okay, so it does that well. Now let's see if it's actually that evolved that it can do more. Weather is still something which is, sometimes you can be sure, sometimes unsure. You're not accurate about it. But this, everybody should be accurate. Okay, Google. Best anchor on television in the history of television. And my name comes up, so I think it's absolutely perfect, works very, very well. Okay, did not give my name, so I don't like the phone as much as I thought I would. But with us now, Varun Krishnan of Phone Arena. Varun, you spent a lot of time with this phone, as you do with almost every single phone in the entire world. So my first question is, how do you afford it? No, I'm just kidding. I want to know a little bit more about, quick, one sentence. We've reviewed it already. What do you think of this phone?
I think it's a killer package in terms of the device, priced at about under 30,000 when phones are like selling for a bomb, like costing over 50, 60,000, even 70,000 in the case of a 64GB iPhone. You have a phone with almost all high-end specs at like a 30,000 price point, which is like really great. And yeah, so
what does this do to the entire business model of phones? So you have a phone like the iPhone, 64GB, okay, so this is not, it is not a true apple-to-apple comparison, but it's almost there in terms of specs, screen, overall. The part that I really love is that earlier I thought Nexus phones were very ordinary looking. Now, this is a good looking phone, feels good in the hand, thin, slim, very nice in every which way. So how does a person take a decision now? Do I spend 28,000 rupees on Nexus or 72,000 rupees on an iPhone?
So I would say if you are looking for an Android phone, like at an affordable price with very like latest specs in terms of hardware, it uses the latest like gen hardware. So I think you should just go ahead and buy this because...
So what does this do to the Android market? Suppose somebody was to say, should I buy a Samsung Galaxy S4 or HTC One or this? How do you justify it now?
I think the Nexus 5 or the Nexus 4 itself was a game changer for LG. LG was kind of a company which was kind of sinking out of the game, out of the league. Now they are back in the top 5 because of the Nexus 4. And Nexus 4 wasn't as impressive as a device as the Nexus 5 is, but still it did well. So the Nexus 5 I think would be another game changer.
But do you think they'll get India marketing right? I mean, the one sucky thing in India is that most people don't know a Nexus phone exists. One. Second, they brought it very late last time. This time they seem to be on the right path. Will they be aggressive enough? Will they be having an ad campaign like Samsung Galaxy S4?
Not many people know about the Nexus brand as such. Correct. Because it's a confusing philosophy. Some people call it the Google Nexus 5.
Some LG.
And they are kind of amazed that LG makes this phone. So it happened with the Nexus 4. But now some of the consumers are kind of getting that point across. But the brand needs to do as like LG as a brand or even Google. Like I think
together they better do something really interesting with this.
Marketing campaign or something. It's a great device, but I think it would go down the drain without effective
Nobody
marketing
knows
support.
about it, right? Okay, Varun, last question, I think a critical one. A lot of people say that the reason that it's not promoted well, the Nexus brand in India, is that LG is very scared of losing its own market for phones like the G2. For instance, should you buy a G2 for 37,38 or this for 28,000? Is that also true? Could that be the main reason?
Yeah, the biggest question I'm getting from like customers and probable like buyers of the Nexus is, should I buy the G2 or the Nexus? So there's a confusion.
What do you answer?
So I think it's a mixed answer. It's a personal preference. So actually the Nexus 5 has some compromises because they have cut down some features to keep the price affordable. This is basically priced at about $349 in the US, so which is for an unlocked device, and it's like coming here for about 29,000. So there are some compromises. For example, the battery is smaller in terms of the capacity. The screen is smaller. It's only a 4.95 inch screen, whereas it's a larger screen.
It's a good screen to hold in hand.
Yeah, it's a
full
good
HD. So the compromises are not that startling. They're not. None of them are the kind where I would change my buying decision, saying, oh my God, I can't touch it. Maybe the optics. But other than that, is there anything within the recommendation specs that would say that is a deal killer? I don't think so.
I think it's some people personally told me they would prefer the G2 over the Nexus because they don't want stock Android. They want all the custom features. For example, you have an IR LED blaster on the
whiz
G2.
bangs of the
so all
other
the fancy
things,
features on the G2.
Okay, Varun, so I think we've got some sense of what is going to happen, but a very interesting market, like I said. So should we reach out to everybody, all you people out there at Google, LG, and all of you who handle the Nexus brand, get a good marketing campaign into India? Varun's saying so, I'm saying so. What else do you need? Good phone. Get people to know it even exists. Thank you. As always, great talking to you.
Great being here. Pleasure.